I just started recording, so just so that everyone knows, we are now being recorded in case you end up talking. I just want to make sure that that is disclosed. Welcome to Southwest Intensive. I am so excited to be teaching this class tonight. First, a couple housekeeping things. More than likely, you're muted when you came in. You would have been muted and your video's off. If you've used Zoom with me in the past, sometimes we all have the video on, but because I didn't need everyone to be prepared to be seen on video, your videos are off. So another piece of housekeeping is there is a chat box. So if you kind of move your mouse around or make the little menu at the bottom of your screen pop up, it says chat, and you can chat. You can type a message that will go to everyone as the default, or you could send it just straight to me if you wanted to. But if you have a question, or if I need to repeat something, or if you just want to comment and be like, that sounds awesome, or I didn't know that, or whatever. If you want to have a conversation with each other or with me, that's a great way to do it in the chat. And yeah, so that's all the housekeeping we have. I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited that I'm here too, because I really have a lot of respect and admiration for Southwest as a company. So I'm Abby Unger. You probably all already know that. The owner of no, I'm not the owner of Southwest. The owner of Flight Attendant Career Connection. I'm not an employee of Southwest. I've actually never been employed by Southwest. My background is I was a flight attendant for Continental Airlines, and also had the opportunity to work as a flight attendant and an in-flight instructor for PSA Airlines, which is a regional airline that is a wholly owned subsidiary of American Airlines. But when I was there, it was U.S. Airways, owned by U.S. Airways. So that's my background. But you may have heard me say in the past, if you've been in my Facebook group for a while, that there's really no good airline or bad airline or best airline or worst airline to work for, because we all have different goals in like where we live, where our mama lives, where we don't want to live, where our ex-husband lives. Like, we're all so different that it's really hard to just say everyone should work for this airline. But Southwest as a company is very well respected in the industry and just in general, not even as an airline, but as a company. And you also may know that, I have family members that are employed by Southwest, and so I've seen how well they take care of employees. So I want to get started by, first I thought it would be fun to start out with the lingo. So I know the lingo is the last page of your workbook, because that's sort of like where the glossary always goes. It kind of goes at the end. But then when I was redoing my notes, I was like, it would be way more fun to go ahead and talk about it at the beginning, to talk about kind of like the fun lingo that Southwest has. So the first one on there is cohorts. So it's sort of like a play on that term cohorts, like they're cohorts, kind of like partners in crime, but it's cohorts. And that's how they refer to each other as employees. So it would be like, you and your cohorts need to do so-and-so. Like, it comes in their emails and in their like when they write things, when they say it. So it's kind of a fun kind of term of endearment that everyone who's an employee of Southwest understands, no matter what work group you're in, which is kind of cool. You may have heard the second one. And like I said, it's the last page of your workbook that I'm going over if you want to follow along. The second one is Herb time. So Herb Kellner, is that how you say it? Yeah, I'm sure it is. I always feel funny saying it. Herb Kellner. It's got like this extra weird H in the middle of the end. Herb Kellner. He's the founder, kind of like the visionary behind Southwest. And so, because Southwest is headquartered in Dallas, they're on Central Time. So their headquarters is on Central Time. But instead of saying Central Time or Dallas Time, they will say Herb Time. So you may have seen today, people were sharing screenshots from their company emails saying that the posting was going to open on September 5th at 9 a.m. Herb Time and close on the 7th at 11:59 p.m. Herb Time. And people were like, what is Herb Time? Like, what is that? It is not 4:20. For those of y'all who are thinking it's herb time, it is actually just the funny thing that they say about time. They have their own language. The next one is the people department. This one's not as fun, but it's what they call the human resources department. It's called the people department, which is actually a very kind of like thoughtful way to talk about their human resources. The people department, they take care of the people. They usually do a lot of the interviewing, so you will have some good contact with them. I'm gonna put my finger over my video. Felt like it was fuzzy, like maybe some child had like stuck something. Maybe not. Okay. Next is some flight attendant terminology that is just interesting to know for Southwest in general. It's a little better. The A flight attendant. So you'll hear people talk about positions. Different airlines use different terminologies. This is Southwest. So the A flight attendant is assigned to the first third of the cabin, and she's responsible for making the announcements, doing compliance checks, communicating with the pilots, operations, and scheduling, because she's up there in the front. The B flight attendant. So you'll hear people say, oh, I'm flying B this trip, or I was the B flight attendant. She's assigned to the aft part of the cabin, which who knows what aft means? You can type it in if you want. Aft. I'll tell you, it's the back. So aft, it's kind of like a boat. Forward and aft, although forward makes a lot more sense than aft. So she's the aft flight attendant, so she's working in the back 1/3 of the cabin. So when they say that, that means if you've flown Southwest, you've seen them divide into 3 groups, like to take drink orders. They each have their own section. So she would be the one that was doing the last third, is the B. And she's responsible for setting up the aft galley, which would be what? The kitchen in the back of the plane. So the aft galley for service, and she does liquor inventory. The C flight attendant is assigned to the middle, and they check the emergency equipment. They're the ones that brief the exit rows and make sure that everyone's willing and able to assist in the case of an emergency. And they do the snack service. So they put the snacks in the basket, right, set up. And then the D flight attendant, now these are only on the 800s, which the reason that there's an extra flight attendant on the 737-800 is because there's more passengers. Every 50 passengers, you need a flight attendant. So Southwest only operates 737s. I mean, most of their airplanes are under 150, so they can get away with, it says my internet, get away with the 3 flight attendants, but then the max holds over 150, and so they need 4. And the FAA looks at the amount of people that the airplane can hold, not the number of passengers actually on board. So even if there's only 2 people on the plane, there will still be 4 flight attendants on the 800. And so that's why there's a D position for the 800. And that she is assigned to the mid-aft 1/4 of the cabin. Because of course, if there's 4, they're going to split it into 4ths instead of 3rds. So she's sort of like the mid-aft, which sounds like maybe like the third 1/4 section of the plane. Love, LUV. Okay, good. I'm sorry. My internet connection, it said it was unstable for a second, but I think we're back. I apologize. Love, LUV. LUV. This is the stock market ticker symbol. So, you know, when you go to the New York Stock Exchange and you can look up and see what the stock is worth for different companies in the newspaper. I'm opening a newspaper with my hands because I think that's how the last time I did it. But now you would probably Google it up. So, but you would do LUV as their stock ticker symbol, which is kind of cool. And it's also the way they enjoy spelling the word love. So whenever it's written down or sent in an email, they will use the word LUV. They will spell it LUV. So that's kind of special for Southwest. The Love Jet is a nickname for the airplane. So I'm going to go on the Love Jet. Is just sort of, you know, it's just kind of like a silly little thing. Provisioning. So provisioning is what Southwest calls their catering. All other airlines that I know of call it catering, but provisioning is the department that supplies the sodas and the snacks and the galley supplies, like the cups and napkins and things like that. Southwest Spirit. So that's our employees' desire to go above and beyond to meet operational challenges and provide the best customer service while having what? Fun. So that spirit, you know, having the Southwest spirit means that everyone is trying to go above and beyond and have fun at the same time, which is pretty cool. WN is Southwest Airlines International Air Transport Association Identification Code, which is a fancy way to say it's sort of like their FAA call sign code. So you know how we have airport codes, Charleston is CHS, and that's international. No matter where you go, what airline you work for, it's standard across aviation. Every airline has their own 2-letter code. And so WN is Southwest's. Now that we've talked a little bit about the lingo, let's go ahead and dive into the Southwest history. I love this story. I love this story like so much. You know, the airlines they all have cool stories. They all have cool histories. They all have cool things that have happened. But this, maybe it's because I'm an entrepreneur. Maybe it's just because it took a lot of hustle and gumption. But I love the Southwest story. So way back, and I want to make sure I'm keeping up with your homework too. So history. So way back, so now we're starting on the first page of the homework. Way back in 1967, there was a man named Roland King. And then there was another man named Herb Kellner. I always forget the H. Keller. Is that it? There's no N. Herb Keller. And they got together and they dreamed up a plan. And what's most interesting is the reason that they met is because Roland, he had another airline that he had started, and it was called Wild Goose Airline, and it was a charter for sportsmen, which I don't think he means football players. I'm pretty sure it's like hunters, because it's called Wild Goose. And it went out of business. It failed. And so he hired Herb, who was a lawyer, to help him close out the books and bankrupt the company. After they were done doing that, they decided to go get a drink together. That night, they talked about and dreamed up Southwest Airlines, which just blows my mind because I think about that rejection that Roland must have been going through at that moment. And still, he dreamed. And where would we be without Southwest? What if they hadn't, you know? So the story goes that they actually drew on a cocktail napkin what's called the triangle. So they had this idea to connect Texas's 3 most popular busiest cities easily, because no other airlines were doing that. No one else was connecting Dallas to Houston to San Antonio to Dallas, a triangle. Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. No one else was connecting them. You had to like go somewhere else. You couldn't just fly easily between those 3. And they were the biggest like commerce cities. So they said, if we did like an airline that just connected these 3, I think we could make some money doing it. And they drew the triangle on a beverage on a cocktail napkin. Well, it wasn't long after that the airline did get started. And in fact, in 1967, the same year, it became incorporated. So that means it became a company, and it was called Air Southwest Company was what it was called originally. So they kind of got it into a company stage. But then that's where the really hard work started, because they started meeting all sorts of resistance. Continental and Braniff served them with restraining orders. They were forbidden. They were forbidden from flying out of certain airlines. They were having trouble getting their approvals, because you need certain approvals. I mean, it makes sense. You have to have certain approvals, certain certifications to put an airplane in the sky. But they were being met with all this resistance that was more than just general, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. It was like very personalized rejection coming at them, and they just continued to fight, and the courts would rule against them, and they kept fighting, they kept trying, and then they finally got their appeals turned over. And then in June 18th, 1971, they earned their wings and had their first flight. And so that was the beginning. Southwest is big on celebrating their birthday, which is June 18th, like I just said. And so if you're flying on that day, they give all the passengers free drinks. They have big birthday parties at all the airports. And that's a really big day for them. They really enjoy celebrating their birthday, which is pretty cool. And so like I said, I just love that story. And I think that they have stayed very true to their roots of just like gumption and just like, we're going to do it kind of spirit. You know, maybe some of that comes from Texas, although Herb was from New York. I didn't know that till today. He was a Yankee, but I'll forgive him for that. But I just think that that's a really cool story about the history of Southwest. And a couple more fun facts. 2017, that marked, so last year, marked their 45th year of profitability, which means they have been profitable for the last 45 years. As an airline, as a company, that's hard enough. But as an airline, that is just remarkable that they have been profitable so long. They've never furloughed a employee. None of the big airlines can say that. They've never furloughed an employee. Also, this year, 2018, is their 24th consecutive year on the list. I want to read it so I get it right. The Fortune's list of world's most admired companies. And I was talking before about how it really is a great company. All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the culture of Southwest, because all of this sort of information that I've given you has been sort of fun and is good to know because it's interesting. But now we're going to dive into some meat and potatoes stuff that will get you ready for moving into the Southwest company bubble family. Tracy asked, what was Southwest originally called? Air Southwest Company Co. Air Southwest Co. Company was what it was called. But now it's called Southwest Airlines. So, which is one of the questions, which is probably what she's asking on your homework. So since we're moving to the next part, I want to just make sure. So it's Roland King and Herb Kellner, Kellelher. Dreamed up Southwest Airlines in a bar in the 60s. It was originally called Air Southwest, and then there's its birthday. So now let's move on to the culture. First of all, culture is defined as the development, improvement, refinement of the original individual entity and the personality of a given people. So culture is the development and improvement and refinement of the identity or personality of a group of people. Okay, so that's what culture is. Southwest is big on company culture, and they're very big on company culture being across the board consistent. So the work groups don't see each other as different work groups, but they really do see each other as cohorts, and they work together in a unified culture, which is really special and contributes to their customer service standards being so high because the teamwork spirit is so strong. Now, the purpose and the vision of Southwest, their purpose is to connect people to what's important. That's a big deal. What does that mean? What's important? Graduations, weddings, babies, deaths, funerals, sickness, hospice, things that are important, not good, not bad, just important. They connect people to things that are important. There's a lot of empathy in that sentence. And they do it through friendly, reliable, and low-cost air travel. So being friendly, reliable, and low cost. They pride themselves in being low cost. They were the first low-cost carrier. They shook up the industry. No more first class. No more meals. No more meals before no more meals was a thing, because now it's a thing. But before, it wasn't a thing. Got a full meal in coach on United, but not on Southwest. And that helped them keep their costs low. They were the first. They started a whole new business, a whole new genre in the aviation industry. And then their vision to become, now this is cool. This is something to remember. It's all cool. I keep saying everything's cool because I just love Southwest. But this is something to remember because I hear this every time I'm at a Southwest event. I see this over and over again. I think most employees would probably be able to quote this, that their vision is to become the world's most loved, most flown, and most profitable airline. What a goal, right? So to become the most loved, they're actually pretty much that now. They're pretty well loved. Most flown, well, they're the biggest domestic carrier, but that's just domestic, and they want to become the world's most flown. That's their goal. And then the third is the most profitable. Now, it's interesting that the money's at the end, but it's still there because still profitability is important. So just to make sure everyone got it, their purpose, the blanks, would be through friendly, reliable, and low cost. And then the vision is most loved, most flown, and most profitable airline. Now let's talk about living the Southwest way. So when you live the Southwest way, I have some notes on here for your worksheet. It says just jot down what these three phrases mean to you personally. So as I'm talking about each one, the things that sort of stand out to you or that you really like or that sort of resonates with you or you feel like would make a good part of your interview answer, jot that down. So the warrior spirit is what we start with. I also think it's interesting that when they list this, because I took this off the website, this isn't like something I stole from the back office of Southwest. The information's out there for all of us, but I love the fact that they put live the Southwest way before work the Southwest way, because that comes next. But this is first, live the Southwest way. They're interested in your life, in the way that you're living, and that you live in a way, it's not like I just perform at work, but I live this way. First of all, the warrior spirit is striving to do your best, displaying a sense of urgency, and never giving up. So that warrior spirit is the bag is late, getting checked, and I'm going to run it to the plane. We got in late. Let's clean the plane as fast as we can so that we can board as soon as we can and we can make up some time. It's never giving up, displaying a sense of urgency. It is striving to always be the best, to do the best job at what you're doing, to get things going. Just the sense of urgency is the one that stands out to me, because moving as quickly as you can, doing things, time is of such an essence in the airline industry that urgency and time matters. So that's the warrior spirit. So take a second and kind of jot down what resonates with you about that one. Which one, how you sort of display the warrior spirit even. Strive to be the best, display a sense of urgency, never give up. Okay, now the next one, servant's heart. I used to say this in the webinar and someone thought I was saying serve a tart. It's not serve a tart. That's not one of the core values. It's servant's heart. Servant's heart. Follow the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Treat others the way you want to be treated, basically. The second one is treat people with respect. And the third one is to embrace our Southwest family. So the servant's heart has a lot to do with others. You know, it's not even just serving or taking care of. It's just, embracing respect. Doing to others like you would have them doing to you. So that's kind of a cool one too. So that one's servant's heart. And then the third one is fun-loving attitude. Jot down, of course, what resonates with you. The third one is the fun-loving attitude. And you'll notice that they spell love. There's our L-U-V. So see, they really do use it that way. Be a passionate team player. Fun, defined for them, is being a passionate team player, is helping out your teammates. Don't take yourself too seriously. Okay, which is different than being funny all the time, because sometimes people feel like they need to be funny all the time to work for Southwest, and that's very different than just being lighthearted. So if you cannot sing or dance and you do not write your own original rap songs, you can still be a Southwest flight attendant. And then the third one is celebrate successes, which I feel like just as a society and as people who are always striving to be successful, if you're sort of a personality, or if you're someone who's always striving to be the best, or always trying to get to another level, or always trying to do more, that celebrating successes sometimes falls to the wayside. We sometimes forget to celebrate that we got an assessment from a certain airline, or we forget to celebrate that we got invited to do a video or a phone interview, or that we made it to the face-to-face. We're always just looking, or that we got the job offer because we're trying to pass training. Sometimes we forget to celebrate successes. And so I think that that's probably something we can all kind of learn from Southwest. And I'm kind of proud of them that they noted that as something that was important. Now we're moving on. So hopefully something kind of pops out for you for that one. Again, jot it down. It's going to be great for your interview later. The next one is work the Southwest way. Okay. So again, jot down the phrases. I'm trying to keep up with y'all's homework too, so I don't get super like off. So work the Southwest way. Now that we've talked about our life and personality, because you've probably heard Southwest will hire for personality and attitude and train for skill. They want you to be living in a way that resonates with them, which is just how you are. And then they will teach you how to work. Secondary. Work safely. Here comes our safety. Yay. Follow standard operating procedures. Follow the rules. Identify and report hazards. So part of their core values is we all, see something, say something kind of thing, like that New York slogan. That's part of their company culture, is that we are all working together to identify and report hazards. And then third is to respect and comply with regulations. So follow the rules. If you see something that's wrong, say something. Protect us all. The next one is to wow the customers. So I feel like we've gotten pretty far into this before we even really talk about customers. We talked about all that live the Southwest way, and all of those things, that fun-loving attitude and servant's heart inspire great customer service. But it's not until you get all the way down here do we really start thinking about the customers or talking about the customers. And again, that goes to hiring personality and then training for skill, because customer service is a skill that some people are naturally good at because of their way they're wired and their personality. And here's how they want to wow their customers. Okay, so probably want to jot these down because customer service is a big part of your interview. Deliver world-class hospitality. Okay, hospitality. Create memorable connections. Memorable connections. And they want to be famous for friendly service, which I feel like they have actually very well accomplished. So they want to be famous. That's what they want to be known for, being friendly. Not necessarily the most elaborate service, not even necessarily on time, but just friendly. And then keep costs low. That's the third one. Keep costs low. Show up for work and work hard. I think that's kind of funny. It's sort of like, so our third rule is that we show up. It's like, awesome. I can do that. I can show up and work hard. Next is protect our profit sharing. So the work groups at Southwest, they get a bonus, basically, that is a share of the profits. That's why it's called profit sharing. So the company makes money. Last year it had profits of like billions. So some shareholders get that, the executives get some of that, like a little bonus. But then the other employees, like my husband, who's a ramper, they get a share of the profits too in the form of profit sharing. And so one thing that is cool about what they're talking about here is that we all are working together to protect our profit sharing. Like sometimes you'll hear people joke like, oh, they're taking that out of my profit sharing check, but even though it's a joke, it really is, don't take that out of my profit sharing check. That's why we don't steal. Don't steal the liquor and take it out of a profit sharing check. Don't not work as hard as you can. Don't not charge people for alcohol when you're supposed to. Don't do things that affect the profitability of the airline, because it affects everyone in the team's profit sharing. And then the third one is find a better way. So that means that Southwest is always looking for better ways to save money. They're always looking for ideas. They're always looking for input and different things that could just help the company save money, a better way to do things. Isn't that cool that is something that they put out in their culture that says, tell us how we can do this better. We would love to hear it. I think that's pretty admirable too. So jot some of those down as well, some things that stick out that you think you can make your own to use in your interview. Let me make sure that we haven't skipped anything on your homework. Okay, we haven't. Now we're going to talk about, if you have any questions, see Christina says she loves that, show up to work. Yeah, I mean, that's one way to make money is just have people show up and work. Okay. If you have questions and stuff, or you want me to review something, you can always type it in the comments because it's popping up over here in the chat for me. Let's talk about lifestyle. Okay, we talked about company culture. Hopefully you got a couple notes that you can add to your vocabulary for when you move on to your interview. And now we're going to talk about lifestyle. Oh, I skipped one little thing in my notes. Before we go to lifestyle, I do want to talk about Southwest. They have a lot of charity that they bring forward. And you can tell that that would match their culture. That's probably not surprising, but I thought that it was neat that they gave away almost 40,000 tickets to charities. So sometimes you'll see raffles and things that will say you could win round trip tickets on Southwest. Those were donated by the company. So charities will ask for tickets, and they donated almost 40,000 tickets in 2016. And then they're big on protecting the environment because, for one thing, they say that it makes good business sense. It helps us be more profitable. Fuel efficiency saves money, but also that it's just the right thing to do. So those are kind of two things that stood out to me as far as their charitable giving that is honorable for them as a company. Now let's talk about lifestyle. All right, this is the good stuff. We're going to get into what does my life look like when I'm a flight attendant for Southwest? What will my lifestyle look like? So first of all, in your homework, or in your workbook, I mean, it says Southwest has 12 crew bases. Write the airport city code for each city in the blank. Okay, so you can go ahead and kind of jot them down if you already know some of them. If not, I'll give you the answers in a minute, and then you can kind of check your work. But the 12 crew bases are Atlanta, Orlando, Baltimore, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Oakland, California, Denver, Austin is a satellite base, and Fort Lauderdale is a satellite base. So those are the two that they just opened, that Austin and Fort Lauderdale are new. They were newly announced. I think Austin's up and running. I haven't heard that Fort Lauderdale's up and running, but it's basically like a temporary base, crew base. Oh, I spelled Phoenix wrong. Oh my gosh, I totally did. Thank you, Tracy. I left the O out. Is that all I left out? It's like exactly how it sounds. I did it. Phoenix. Exactly how it's very phonetic. Sorry, excuse my typo. Only because I live here. Well, y'all don't know how hard it was for me. I was trying to type out the words, and I kept wanting to type the airport code because, like, since my husband's in the airlines, like, we don't even say city names, much less write them out. So I was like trying to type them. Okay, so Phoenix is spelled wrong, but satellite bases. Austin and Fort Lauderdale. Austin's up and running. I haven't heard that Fort Lauderdale is yet, but these are like temporary bases where it's sort of a trial run to see if they will work for profitability and for helpfulness to continue on as bases, crew bases. So right now, the most junior flight attendant crew bases, which means that's where most flight attendants get based right out of training, is Oakland and Baltimore. Almost everyone spends a month in Oakland, and then they transfer out because they put their transfer in right away, and they usually get back over to Baltimore pretty quick. Atlanta is very, very, very senior. In fact, that's an old AirTran flight attendant base, which means when Southwest bought AirTran, they took over that base, and it shrunk. So AirTran had more flight attendants based there than Southwest needed. So some of those AirTran flight attendants got displaced. So they got moved out to other airports. They did it to Orlando too. But they moved them to Baltimore, they moved them to Chicago, and so they have first rights back in. So instead of it being straight seniority based, getting back into Atlanta, if like someone retires or transfers out of Atlanta, the next person that gets the option is the AirTran employee that would be next in seniority. Once all those AirTran employees that were displaced have had an opportunity to go back to Atlanta or not, they don't have to go back, then it opens it up to the Southwest seniority list. So now you're starting at the top of the Southwest seniority list, and you're working your way down it based on who wants to go to Atlanta to fill those spots. That means it will be a long time before anyone who's even Southwest, like old Southwest, had a shot to get in, and then they've got to go all the way through the seniority list down to you, the newbie. So Atlanta is not really an option as far as bases go now. But if you live in Atlanta or you want to live in Atlanta, you have more of a chance of getting based in Atlanta sometime in your life than working for an airline that doesn't even have a base in Atlanta. Also, Southwest will let you, if you're based in Baltimore, for example, you could drop your assignments there and then pick up out of open time, so trips that have not been assigned a flight attendant, in the Atlanta base. So really, you could work a lot of trips out of Atlanta, but you wouldn't technically be based there. So Orlando was like that too, but they've already gone through everyone and they're already back in. And now, like I have a friend who, I think he's been a flight attendant probably close to 3 years now, but he's been in Orlando for a year. So, you know, it took him 2 years to get at Orlando, but he got it. So that one's a little bit, even though it's senior, it's a little bit more reasonable to think you would get it at some point. So again, Baltimore and Oakland are the most junior. That's where you're going to go first. Chicago's usually pretty easy to get into. Houston's usually pretty easy to get into. Dallas, Phoenix, and Vegas are a little bit more senior. So that means it may take you 18 months to 2 years to get in there, but it's not going to be like 35 years before you get your transfer. It's going to take a little bit of time. And you heard that Phoenix is lovingly called Jurassic Park. Oh, because of the senior mamas? Is that what you mean? Because of the dinosaurs or the senior mamas? The flight attendants have a lot of seniority. Yeah, that makes sense. That's funny. So that's why Phoenix is a little bit more of a senior base. But I have a client who's been a flight attendant 2.5 years, and she's been based in Phoenix for a while now. That's where she lives. It didn't take her long to get in there. So it's, you know, I'm thinking within 2 years, 2.5 years, you would be where you would want to be, unless where you want to be is Atlanta. And then you're still waiting. But that's just, and Denver is kind of even with Chicago. I think that's the only one I didn't cover. Denver's kind of easy, even with Chicago, in the sense that you're not going to get it like right away, but there's a good amount of movement that, oh, Monica, how about Denver? There's a good amount of movement that you're going to, it's not going to take like a ton of time for you to be able to kind of get back in there. Okay, good. So now let's talk about, so let me go over the airport codes though. So hopefully you've been kind of working on those. Atlanta is ATL. Now let me see if I can get these right because I didn't write them down. Is ATL. Orlando is MCO. It's like Mickey Company because it's Orlando, MCO. You're welcome. Baltimore is BWI. A lot of times you'll hear it called BWI. BWI. Chicago, did you get this one right? It's not ORD, right? It's Midway, MDW. Yes, MDW. Okay, Midway, because Southwest doesn't fly into O'Hare. They fly into Midway, and that's where the base is. So that would be correct if you put Midway. Houston, here's another one. It's not IAH. It's not George Bush International. It's Houston Hobby, HOB. Oh, no, HOU. HOU, Houston Hobby. Dallas, did you get this one? It's not DFW, it's DAL, Dallas Love Field. Isn't that sweet? Love Field. Dallas Love Field, DAL. And that's also where headquarters is and the training center. Las Vegas, LAS. Oakland, OAK. Denver, DEN. Austin, AUS. Fort Lauderdale, FLL, because it's Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport. So that's why it's got all these L's. All right. How about Denver? Oh, how about Phoenix? Did I skip it? That's because y'all don't know how to spell it. That's because I don't know how to spell it. PHX. I forgot. Poor Phoenix is just not getting any love from me tonight, or Tracy, who's calling it Jurassic Park. Yeah, so Phoenix, sorry I skipped it, is PHX. Okay, good. Now let's talk about pay. All right, some more like nitty gritty. If you have any questions about the bases, you can type them in. I tried to answer some of the more common questions about seniority and things like that. So let's talk about pay. So the per diem, you'll see on your worksheet, your per diem right now. I got this information. I'll go ahead and tell you. I got this information from the flight attendant contract, which is on the internet. Okay, so I just want to make sure everyone's clear about where I got my information and how I got it. So I got it off the internet. So if you Google, like I did, Southwest Airlines collective bargaining agreement, which is what a union contract is called, collective bargaining agreement, you will be able to find it too. Now, it's a big document. It's like a PDF. It has like 84 pages. So if you're interested in reading it, you can find it and read it. I went through it today and pulled out the most interesting and pertinent information for us on this side of the interview to know. So per diem, let's start with per diem. So, because now we're going to move into some stuff that I got from the contract, and I don't want anyone to be like, oh, is she allowed to read us from the contract? Yes, I found it on the interwebs, okay? So nobody gave me their contract. I just found it on the interwebs. Oh, no wonder I couldn't find it. I used the wrong term. So sometimes you want to Google contract, and then you find a lot of articles that will say like Southwest Airlines just rejected their new contract and like things like that. But collective bargaining agreement brought it up. I was able to find it that way, the longer term. So per diem, first of all, I want to talk about what that is. When you start a trip, you get paid something called per diem. And let me start over. I'm sorry. Per diem is a small stipend of money that you get while you're working a trip to help you cover expenses like food. So instead of giving you like a food allowance or asking you to fill out an expense report and turn it in, the company just says, here's on average what y'all are all going to probably eat. We're going to contribute to it. So the per diem for Southwest is $2.35 an hour, every hour that you are on duty for a trip, 24 hours a day. So when you check in for your trip at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then you work for 3 days, whether you're on the airplane or you're in the hotel, you're still making that $2.35. And it is, again, to pay for, it's basically to sort of reimburse you for your food and things like that. Per diem, when you spend the night away, so if you're gone overnight for more than a one-day trip, is not taxable. It's exempt from tax, paying taxes on it. So I think someone said, who said that it was pretty decent? Christina said that per diem's pretty decent. That's true. At PSA, I made $165 an hour. So, you know, when you're talking about 100 hours a month or, you know, like that, it can start to, no, it's like 100 hours a week, like 79 hours a trip. It can start to add up, you know, $400, $500 difference in your paycheck. PSA per diem versus the Southwest per diem. You also get a couple, as we go through pay, I didn't break them all down in this, but I do want you to know that you get paid little bits extra for little bits of extra work. So if you're flying lead or A, you get a little bit more money. If you go out of the country, you get paid a little bit more money. If you have different responsibilities, you get paid a little bit more money. So there's all these little different ways to make little bits more money kind of all around. But this is the very basic, straight up flight attendant pay scale. So that's the per diem. One of the most important things about per diem is that it's not taxed. That's the coolest thing. They pay on each check the per diem, or is it the last check? That's a good question. I don't know for sure, but I imagine it's like every other airline where you get paid in your second check the per diem from the previous month. So like on March 20th, you would get paid a check that would include some work. as well as your per diem from February, because they can't tally up your per diem until the month's over. So I think that's where it is. But that's a great question. I'm going to try to find that out. So I don't believe it's split into two. I believe it's a big check and a small check. I also heard someone talk about the other day that you can actually default, or you can change your preferences and get one check a month. Like if you don't work a ton, instead of getting like 2 tiny checks, you could just get 1 regular size check. So that's kind of cool. I guess, I don't know. It's nice to have options. Next thing we're going to talk about is how actual pay works for Southwest Airlines. Okay, you will hear people say this thing called trip for pay. We don't get paid, this is what they'll say, we don't get paid flight hours, we get paid TFP, or we get paid trip for pay. So instead of most airlines, I think Alaska and Southwest are the only ones who don't, but most airlines will pay you for the hour. Like if you're on the plane and you work for an hour, a flight hour, you get paid for that hour. For some reason, and I don't know why, but Southwest has a different sort of way that they pay, and it's called trip for pay. So you get paid per trip. But a trip is not like a leg or even like a day. It's an amount of time. It's based on mileage. So if you want to break it out so that you can kind of compare it to the other airlines, is you would multiply the trip for pay amount times 1.15. So I did that for you, which means the flight hour rate is equivalent to $28.07 an hour. That's amazing. That is a lot for starting out flight attendants. When I started at Continental, I made $19.50 an hour. Now that was 10 years ago, but still, that's almost $10 less than this. And when I started at PSA, it was like $16.25. It was not very much. So that was like half of this. So yeah, that's like the pay. Actually, so Southwest is, Christina said it's like the big three. Southwest and American sort of go back and forth on who has the most. Southwest usually is leading for the most pay to start with. And I took this out of the contract, this chart, and you can see that kind of every year as part of their contract, the pay scale goes up. So that's what the columns that are going up and down mean. So we would be the third column that says after 11/1/17, that's where we're working right now. So when you start, you're starting at $24.41 trip for pay, which like I said, breaks out into $28.07. And then after 6 months, you get your first raise. See how it goes up? 30 cents. And then after that, step 1 would be your 1 year higher anniversary. That's when you get your raises. So on your 1 year anniversary, you would get $27.10 trip for pay. So does that make sense? And then you go all the way down until you're at 13 years, and on your 13th anniversary, by then you'll have a new contract, so this is not what you'll make, but let's just say you were at 13 today, it's 61. So what is that? Almost 3 times as much as your starting pay. Almost, not quite. So that's something so that just sort of shows you what you can make or what you will be able to make. So Monica's asking me, what determines a trip? Can you give an example? A trip is, how do you log back into the dashboard? I'm not sure what that means. So a trip is, it's a unit of measurement for pay. It has to do with mileage. So, but what you want to do so that you can kind of figure it out and compare it is multiply it by that 1.5, and it would be 28.07. So for example, let's say Houston to Dallas would be a 1 hour and 15-minute flight. If you were working for United, you would get paid for 1 hour and 15 minutes. But the trip for pay actually sort of changes that, and it's a little bit shorter than an actual hour. So you would multiply, but once you multiplied your number by 1.5, 0.15, then you're able to compare what you would make for United versus what you would make for Southwest. So if United pays $20 an hour and you work an hour, 15 minutes, I'm going to try to do the math, then you would make what, $25 for that trip. And let's say you're working it for Southwest. Once you do your numbers out, you're making 28. I'm trying to do some math in my head. What would be a fourth of 28? Like 7-ish. Yeah, 7. So you would make 28. So you would make $35 for that same trip, that Houston to Dallas on Southwest. You would make like 30, like, what did I say? Like $35. But for United Pay, you would make closer to $25. Does that make sense? Do you see that it's just sort of like they're tracking it differently is all they're doing? Okay, you still just get paid from the moment the doors are closed and no pay for sitting in the airport. Yes, and that's a great point, Christina. So when we say flight hours, when I keep saying flight hours, that means when you get on the plane and you shut the door and the plane pushes back, that's when your flight hour or your trip for pay, however your airline pays you, starts. So when you get to the airport and you check in and you check your emergency equipment and you board your passengers, you are making your per diem, right? Because you've already checked in, you're on your trip, but they're not starting to bank those trip for pay miles until you start to travel. Sitting at the airport, it depends on how you're sitting at the airport. If you're just in between flights, you're only making your per diem. If you're on airport standby, then you're getting paid a guarantee, which I'll go over that in a minute too. Upload. Oh, she doesn't know how to get in the application for the website. Okay, really quick. So how do you log back into the dashboard? I'm not sure of the technicalness of that. Oh, do you mean because you applied before? You should have gotten, okay, so the portal was different. There was like a special flight attendant one last time. So you should be able to go to the email that they sent you that said, thank you for submitting your application. And there should be a link in that email. So you would have gotten it last August. That would be a good place to start. You applied today for Southwest Airlines? Are you internal? Or are you talking about JetBlue? Okay. All right, so we'll move on. We'll talk about that in a minute. Is there a guaranteed minimum number of hours? There's not a guaranteed minimum number of hours the same way other airlines have it, but but there's no minimums, there's no guarantees, there's no maximums, minimums. It's really sort of like what you work. So you are getting paid, like if you're sitting reserve, you are getting paid a certain amount for those hours, but you can drop those days and go down, or you could pick up a trip and it would go over. So yeah, so there is a guarantee. So I see what you're asking. Yeah, so there is a guarantee based on how much you work. Okay, so, and everyone's sort of assigned the same thing. And let's talk about the schedule, because that's a good segue into that. So the way that Southwest does it is kind of cool and interesting and neat. For their reserve, they will assign you 3 days of reserve every week for the month. So that means most airlines, and I'm going to read it in a minute, but so reserve flight attendants, it's actually, I'm going to read it next. So reserve flight attendants will be scheduled for and receive a minimum of 13 days off for a 30-day month, or 14 days off for a 31-day month, which means when I was at Continental, which I keep saying that, but just to compare, we had a minimum, we had 11 days off guarantee. PSA was 10 days off, so I had to work 20 of them. So 14 days off in a 31-day month, that's almost half the month. That's so cool. So what does that open up for you? It allows your lifestyle to be a little bit bigger, and it also gives you an opportunity to make more money because you have more days off and you can pick up more trips. You can work more if you want to because you're not just sitting reserve. So that's really exciting. Southwest will assign you 3 reserve days every week in the month. So it would be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or more than likely when you first start, it'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, over the weekends. And so that's really cool because you then have some extra days to pick up, and it's pretty consistent. It's not like blocks of 5 and then 2 days off and then block 4 and then 3 days off. It's a little bit more consistent, which is nice for planning things. They also have 3 different types of reserve. Okay, so the first one is like regular reserve, and that's where you're just sitting on call for your assigned days and you're waiting for them to call you. The next one is called AM reserve, and then they have PM reserve. If you're AM reserve, then the day before you start your reserve, and they have a certain amount of times at 1800 local time. So the AM reserves can self-assign, which means instead of waiting for crew scheduling to call you and assign you all the trips that are sort of in the open time, which is sort of like in the pot waiting for a flight attendant because either someone got sick or they got hurt or they moved their vacation or they got pulled in to do this or that or the other, or they got stuck in Toledo because of the weather, then their trips would go in this open time. So instead of waiting for Southwest to just call you, crew scheduling to call you and just give you the next one, you as an AM reserve can actually go into the computer and look at what the choices are and pick one that you like. So you can self-assign the trip you want, which is really nice because like if I want to overnight in Charleston, I don't have to get the trip that has the Seattle overnight. The girl who has a best friend in Seattle could pick it up and I can pick up the Charleston. So it allows us a lot more flexibility. So that's really cool. And then there's PM reserve. Oh, the AM reserve has to pick up the trips that start before 10 o'clock in the morning. So you're picking up an AM. That's why it's called AM reserve. And then there's PM reserve, and you can pick up trips that start after 10 a.m. Imagine that. So you can self-assign, you can pick up a trip for the next day for your reserve in the afternoon. Well, after 10, which isn't really the afternoon or PM, but it's not the early morning. So that's pretty cool. And those are considered reserve months. So that's really neat. Airport standby is an assignment that you can receive as a reserve. That means you are standing by at the airport. So if you're assigned airport standby, you will get dressed, you will put on your uniform, you will pack your suitcase, and you will go sit in the crew room and watch the Today Show until crew scheduling calls you. And if they don't call you, then you just sit there. So that can be up to 5 hours. When you're sitting airport standby, you are being paid trip for pay. So you're being paid flight hours, basically, while you're there. Even though you're not really on the plane, the fact that you're at the airport and ready, they do pay you and compensate you. So that's what airport standby is. Another thing, oh, what's their policy on commuting? That's what's next, Christina. I was going to say, now I'm going to read, and I am going to read this and then we'll talk about it. And I took this again out of the contract. So I'm going to read it to you in their language and then we'll break it down what it really means. Commuter policy. Flight attendants utilizing air transportation on Southwest Airlines or flight attendants who have listed and presented themselves on a minimum of 2 consecutive scheduled flights on an offline carrier must make all reasonable efforts to arrive in the domicile, in their base, 1 hour prior to her check-in or 30 minutes prior to contact time. So 30 minutes before your reserve starts on the first day of their reserve block. However, if the flight upon which a flight attendant had listed and presented herself encounters irregular operations such as weight restriction, downsizing aircraft, lack of availability in the seating, or is significantly delayed, and such flights, including the stops and the connecting flights, were scheduled to arrive an hour before your check-in or 30 minutes before your reserve time, then the flight attendant, see, I'm telling you, this language, I'm skipping some words. This language is very legally. The flight attendant shall notify crew scheduling as soon as possible prior to scheduled check-in or contact time. Crew scheduling will then have the option to assign the flight attendant to any of the following and will so advise the flight attendant. So what that means is if you are a commuter, to not get in trouble, you have to list yourself, which means go to the airport and put your name on the list to try to get a seat on at least one Southwest flight that would get you in either an hour before your trip starts or 30 minutes before reserve starts. One. And as long as you do that, you're not going to get in trouble. Now, you're not going to get paid, but and they can reassign you or they can stick you on reserve, but you're not going to get in trouble or fired for that's the commuter policy. If that's one Southwest airline or one Southwest flight or two non-Southwest flights. So that's what it means when it says offline carrier. Or two, like, so I could list myself for like, if I work for Southwest, if I do, I don't, I could list myself for United twice to try to get to wherever I'm going, Chicago, twice. And as long as that second flight would still get me there an hour before my check-in time, if I don't get on either one because they're full, right? Because if there's no available seating in the cabin, because it's full, or if the plane is late or delayed or maintenance or whatever, you're covered. Like, you're good. You're not going to get fired or in trouble. Now, this is not something you want to do because you're not getting paid. It's not a good teamwork spirit to try to like miss your commutes and things like that. But their commuter policy is the most generous I have seen. There's a lot of generosity in this commuter policy. So if you have any questions about it, you can type them in. Christina says it's a great policy. It's very employee friendly. Yes. So I know Christina lives like in Atlanta. So I was looking today. I think that's like their third biggest, departures for Southwest City. So she would have a lot of options because, she's just got a list for one. And I bet she can get from Atlanta almost anywhere that she would end up being based, because we already talked about how she's not going to be based in Atlanta for a long time. So it is very, very, very friendly. Southwest is one airline, is kind of like the only airline that's kind of okay with you commuting. In fact, this is a very, very strong, very flight attendant friendly commuter policy. Now, it does say you have to list and present yourself. So you do have to go to the airport. You can't just list and say, oh, it's full, so I'm not going to even go. You have to actually be standing there at the gate watching the plane leave for it to count. Good. So I'm checking your homework your worksheet to make sure I'm not skipping anything. So training is approximately 4 weeks long, and it's held in, who knows, Dallas. That's where their headquarters is. That's where the training center is. That's where the TOPS building is. That's where everything is. And so you would be there. They don't pay for training. Training is unpaid, but they do provide housing for you, transportation, like, they'll fly you out to Dallas. They'll give you a place to stay. They'll make sure you get to class and back every day. And then when you successfully graduate, they give you a bonus. So if you made it through almost all of training and then you didn't graduate, you would not get that bonus. But when you graduate, you do get a bonus. And I believe it's $1,500. Okay. So that is a little bit about training. Really exciting. Training is awesome. I love training. I love flight attendant training. Like I said, I was an instructor for PSA, which means we do all training. I taught recurrent and initial. So that was all really fun. Is there a meal card during training? Yes. Good question. There's a meal card. Yeah, they give you a meal card. So that means it has money on it to help you buy food. And like I said, they do put you in the provide housing. So they sort of make it so you can live, but you're not actually getting paid. So you feed yourself, you can eat, and you can be safe and sleep. Good question. All right. So now let's talk about, we're kind of done with lifestyle. So if you have any other lifestyle questions that you want to ask. Oh, this came up earlier, and I was teaching the Stop Dreaming, Start Flying class, and one of the ladies asked, what if Southwest, if when you give away your trips, if you can pay flight attendants to pick them up. And yes, that's one more thing that I think is unique about Southwest. So if I had a trip like over Christmas and I didn't want to work it because I wanted to be home, I could put it up on the trade board, which is electronic. It's not like a board. It used to be. It probably still is a board too, but it's electronic. I can post it up, and then I could say, would someone please pick up this trip? I'm putting $200 on it. So because I want to be home at Christmas with my kids so bad, I will pay someone $200 to pick the trip up. Most airlines don't allow you to pay, even though it happens, don't really allow you to pay each other to pick up trips, but Southwest does. So you could actually make, if you want to work Christmas, you can make extra money because you can get paid. Or if you need to get rid of something and you're super desperate, you can also put some money on a trip, $75 or whatever. Christmas is surprisingly busy. Yes. Yeah. Good. Okay, so now let's talk about, do they pay overtime on holidays? That's in the contract. I read it today. The answer is yes. I believe that they consider Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's holidays. I'm not sure if you get paid what the over is though, but those are the 3 holidays. So like 4th of July, Easter don't count as holidays. Christmas, Thanksgiving, and New Year's Day, if you're working on those days, you do get paid a premium because those are the holidays. The amount is in the contract, and I didn't write it down, so I don't know off the top of my head, but those are the 3 holidays. All right, let's talk about training. No, let's talk about resumes. Okay. So hopefully you have got your resume pretty much ready for the 5th. But as you do your final review of it, I do want to point out a couple tips and some things to be considerate of for your, and they're on your homework. I thought they were. I just want to make sure. That they're in your worksheet. It's not really homework, it's like classwork on your homework and your worksheet. So first of all, don't include a picture of yourself and don't put any graphics on it. In the past, I feel like Southwest is constantly getting better with their systeming, but in the past, they have had things with graphics on it, which could be anything from like a picture, like a graphic of an airplane, or like if you make your signature look like a graphic because it's a PDF. Anything with a graphic has gotten kicked out. So I'm not saying that that's for sure going to happen this time, but don't put any graphics on your resume. They're not necessary. Certainly don't put a picture of yourself on it. Their name is Southwest Airlines, not Airways, not 3 words, 2 words. The W is not capitalized. Southwest Airlines. You want to go back at least 10 years in your job history. Consider tonight, this is your homework, tonight or tomorrow, sometime before the 5th, I do want you to reread your resume, thinking about those core values, looking for ways that you can incorporate the core values into your resume so that you're changing little words, that you're adding fun in some of your job descriptions. So hopefully you did this for JetBlue already today or a couple weeks ago, that you already went through and added some fun. Things that you did for fun, planning fun events, creating a fun environment for children, like whatever it is in your background, hopefully you put the word fun in there somewhere. If you didn't apply to JetBlue or you didn't do that, then make sure the word fun is in there. That's a big deal. We've already talked about, how many times did we talk about fun? What are some other words that we talked about? What are some other words they used? Friendly, most loved. Those are some things that were kind of repeated over and over again. Of course, safety, respect was a big one. So these are some words that the golden rule, in your objective, it would be awesome to say, I live my life according to the golden rule and I love to serve people and create a fun environment, right? Now, if that's not you, I'm not saying just write that down, but do you see how we could have said it a different way, but that way use some Southwest terminology? So you're going to want to read back through it again before the 5th, after this class and before the 5th, and see what you could maybe change to fit a little bit more into the Southwest branding. More than 1 page for a resume is okay. Cover letter is not necessary. But if you have one you love, you can add it to your resume as the first page, so you only have one file to upload. I don't know what the portal is going to look like on the 5th. I don't. I'm not in the tech department, and I don't do the coding. I do know that in the past, they have not asked for a cover letter or had a spot to upload it in the past. So if you have a cover letter that you love, I would go ahead and put it in one file with your resume so that it will be uploaded easily as one file. Okay. Next, don't forget to add fun. I already went over that because it's a big deal. Fun in your job descriptions. If you use the word love, consider spelling it LUV for some extra bonus points. If you feel like it looks dumb, or it's not you, or you think it feels like you're trying too hard or something like that, then you can spell it correctly. But I would encourage you to really try to spell the word love, L-U-V, because they will like it. It's kind of like winking at them a little bit. How important is a cover letter? You do not need a cover letter for Southwest Airlines. I don't write Southwest cover letter, like when I'm doing resume rewrites for Southwest, I don't include cover letters. My clients don't need cover letters. JetBlue, yes, they like a cover letter. Southwest, don't stress it. Don't worry about it. We got bigger fish to fry. Don't try to come up with a cover letter. Good. Do I have to tweak my resume since you did it earlier, or is it okay? Since I did it in like September, look at it and see if I put the word fun in there, Christina, because it was so long ago, I can't remember. And and I imagine based on your goals at the time, I was not focusing on the fun. So either we can work together to put some fun in there, like I'll look at it again, you can send it back to me and I can help you fix it. Christina was in the first Stop Dreaming, Start Flying class, which was in September. And so part of that was I rewrote her resume. So that's why she was asking me specifically, is it good to go still? But I doubt that I'm going to be really surprised if I put the word fun in it because of where we were headed at that time. And then what do you charge to look at resumes? Heather, resume reviews, which means you send me your completed resume, took a look at it, and I'll email you back my thoughts and suggestions, and then you can make the corrections on your own, is $25. Resume rewrites are more because it's obviously more, more involved. Good. So we got a special one for JetBlue back then. Oh, okay. Then it's probably good. Let's just check it again. You can email it to me, because more than likely for JetBlue, I put fun in there because they're big on fun too. So we can talk about it. If you send it to me, I can look at it, and then I can tell you, because I'm sorry, I don't remember. Application tips. Once you have finished your resume, you can go in, and someone was asking about the dashboard. You could go in today and upload your resume. So what you do is you go to careers and then you click on apply, and then it'll say something like the job you want's not available. Create a profile so we can let you know, and then you can upload your resume and make sure everything's correct, and you can save it. And then on the 5th at 9 a.m. Herb time, you can just go in there and quickly answer the application questions for the flight attendant position and be near the top of the list. That's not required, though. If you go and do it all on the 5th, that's totally fine too. It's not required, but I feel like everyone likes to feel like they're in a little bit of control, and it's nice to go ahead and be excited and get it done. So I don't want people, I feel like people are stressing a little bit too much about it. Someone was saying, and her name's not popping up, it's just like initials, that she was trying to get into her dashboard. Check your email, because you should have gotten some sort of confirmation recently that would have maybe your login information on how to get back into the dashboard. Flight attendant question. Did I not say flight attendant questions? I don't know what Tracy needs. Did I misspeak? Oh, I did. Okay. Yeah. So there'll be special questions on the application to be a flight attendant. Okay. So I'm going to go over application tips now. So once your resume is ready and you've got your your profile created, or not, because you're going to wait to the 5th. Once you get in there and the application is live on the 5th and you're ready to go, it's going to ask you some questions. The questions are going to be something like, are you 20 years old? Do you have permission to work in the United States? Do you have permission to enter and exit all countries that Southwest serves? Are you willing to abide by our uniform and tattoo policy? There's stuff like that. So they're not like, it's not an assessment. It's not a personality. It's just qualifier questions. Read it very, very, very carefully. It's going to ask you, have you applied in the last year? Have you applied and interviewed in the last year? It's going to ask you questions that are very, very easy. So don't freak out about it, Tracy. But I know people who have somehow disqualified themselves because either they said they couldn't work in the United States accidentally, they clicked the no when they were supposed to click the yes, or minimum requirements, or they said that they weren't 21 and they're like 70, no, they're not 70, but they're like 40 and they said, no, I'm not 18, because sometimes it's a lot of like, yes, I'm 18, yes, I have permission. No, I don't have restrictions or something like that. And so sometimes people get excited and you're trying to get in there first and trying to be the top of the list and I'm going to beat everybody out, like throwing elbows, and then you accidentally click the wrong thing. So it has happened to people I know. Read it very, very carefully and then read it again, because sometimes if you hit tab, it'll change your answer. So just be really, really careful, because Southwest historically, and I don't see any reason they're going to change this, gives a phone interview to every single person that applies that meets those minimum requirements. So if you get an instant thanks but no thanks or rejection letter, it's probably because you accidentally disqualified yourself and it was probably in error. Okay, so read it really carefully, because that's heartbreaking when that happens. So like I said, pretty much everyone gets a phone interview. The way that they've done it historically, and I keep saying that because Southwest can change their stuff whenever they want, but they've been doing it this way for about 4 years straight. They've been interviewing and hiring for 4 years straight. Even though they only accept applications externally once every 18 months, they have been consistently hiring, training, putting people out on the line for 4 years. They sometimes take a break at Christmas and sometimes in the summer, but they've been consistently hiring. So what I have seen and what historically they have done is they have talked to everyone on the phone. They don't do a video interview. It's a phone interview, and they give one to everybody, which is cool, right? That's pretty cool. So, if you can apply and you can get your questions answered and you can get your resume in there, then you have an opportunity to talk to somebody, like to really talk to them on the phone. So that's one of your answers. In the past, Southwest has performed a phone, not a video, not video interviews, as the preliminary interview. So no assessment, no weirdness, phone interview. Here's 3 of the questions that have been consistent based on my feedback from clients as far as the phone interview goes. Again, they can change it at any time. And because it is a phone interview and not a video interview, the person on the other end of the line may ask follow-up questions, may ask for clarification, which on the video, it is very standard. You all get the same 5 questions. On a phone interview, it's a little bit more of a conversation. They will ask you, tell me what a flight attendant does. What is a flight attendant's job description? Okay, so for this one, we're going to talk about safety first. Well, a flight attendant's first responsibility is safety, but in her day-to-day duties, she gets on the plane, she checks her equipment, she greets people during boarding, helps them with baggage, she prepares the cabin for takeoff, makes sure everyone's safe, she serves drinks and snacks, and then at the end of the flight, she helps everyone deplane and get off the plane, and then she tidies up for the next group. Okay, pretty simple, right? Now, that was my language. You're going to want to say it in your language, however you would say it, but they really do want to know, what does she do? Literally. Another question that they ask is, tell me about a time you gave great customer service. This is a star format question, so you'll want to have a story ready. If you've done any flight attendant interview, more than likely you were asked this at some point. Or if you're moving forward, get an interview with more than Southwest, they are going to ask you too. So tell me about a time you gave great customer service. Next, I've got some extra training if you need on STAR format, but we don't have time for that now. Oh, because we're almost out of time. Next, tell me about a time you faced an emergency. Again, this is your chance to show them how you are cool as a cucumber under pressure and that you can save the day. So anything from a car accident to a sick child to like a real emergency or a fire alarm goes off and you have to evacuate a building. You know, nobody has to die, but you need to keep your head cool and you need to spring into action. You need to save the day. Okay, that's a great time that you face an emergency. The interview, because there's a person and because it's Southwest, it feels very, very friendly, and which is good, but don't let that throw you off. Here's another tip. Don't forget you're being interviewed, that you're not chatting with a buddy, okay? So you got to keep your A game on, and you got to keep your A game on. You got to keep your game face on and bring your A game. That makes more sense because it is an interview, okay? You can be fun and you can be funny and definitely be yourself and definitely enjoy the conversation, but remember that level of professionalism that everything you're saying is being judged. I am judging you. I'm not, they are. If you are successful in the face-to-face, in the phone, you will move on to the face-to-face interview. Sometimes, it's not a more or less, it's just a sometimes. Sometimes you will be told in your phone interview that you're being recommended to move on. Not always. It's sort of rare. The more standard thing is for you to get an email later inviting you to the face-to-face. So you will see some people say that their recruiter told them right that minute they were moving on. That is true. But most people get an email inviting them to the face-to-face. So if your recruiter doesn't give you an invite right there, that's normal. Most people get it in an email later. Does a phone interview ask the same questions as a video? So we went over that one a little bit. It's similar. It's very similar to what you've experienced in a video interview in the past. In the face-to-face, they will invite you to the face-to-face. They have been holding them in Dallas for the last 2 years or so. They used to do them kind of all around, but now they do them in Dallas at headquarters. They will fly you in and out of your interview. They'll fly you in, fly you home. They don't pay for food. They don't pay for a hotel if you need it. So they will fly you there, though. They do provide transportation. You will first walk into a room, and there will be other applicants there. It's a lounge kind of area. Everyone is super nice. The receptionist is super nice. She's excited to see you. They'll take your passport. They'll take your fingerprints. They'll talk to you. You'll meet your other applicants that are interviewing that day. Be in conversation with them. People are walking around. They're noticing what you're doing. They notice if you're in the corner on your phone or if you're having conversation and you're looking like you are just so fun and so Southwest fabulous. They notice. So enjoy yourself too. It's going to be more fun if you're chatting with other people. And then there's a couple different aspects of the interview. And depending on what time your face-to-face is scheduled, depends on the order of this. So this isn't necessarily the order that your day will go, but these are going to be the components of your day. Okay? The first thing that you'll do is you'll all be in a room and you'll get your fingerprints and your passport and your identification and things recorded and taken and photocopied in case you get your job, for when you get your job. Next, there is sort of a group, it's not an activity, but it's like a session where you're all sitting together around a table and you watch a presentation given by a flight attendant talking about a lot of the things we talked about. Where's the base? Where's the most junior base? How much are you going to make? How long is training? Where is training? Is training paid? All of these kinds of things. What is Southwest looking for? What is Southwest known for? What is Southwest goal? Like a lot of the things we've talked about, it's a little bit of a presentation about Southwest. It's exciting. It's a neat thing to be part of. The next aspect of it is there's a physical test. So it's not hard. You don't have to do push-ups. But what you do have to do is they have what's basically a mock-up of a window exit taped to the doorway. So they've taped this thing to the doorway that has a smaller opening in the middle that is the size of a window exit. You have to go through that. You go through it without touching it. So you're going to go through it. They want to make sure you fit through it. Okay. It's a size test. I fit through window exits on CRJ 700 when I was 6 months pregnant. So, which is a different type of plane that's smaller. So it's not a tiny hole. Most people, if you can fit in their uniform guidelines, which is up to a size 18, you should be okay as long as you have the dexterity to kind of get through it. So here's what I want you to write down when you go through the window exit. Here's how you do it. Leg, body, leg. Okay? You put one leg in, you put your body through, and then you pull the other leg after you. Don't try to stick your head on first. Don't go head first. It's leg, one leg over, body, so you, because it's like this, so you go under it, body, leg, okay? Then you walk between these two tables that are set up to be the width of the aisle, and they want to make sure that you can fit down the aisle, okay? So you walk down, there's someone there with a clipboard watching you. It's nice to pretend that you're a flight attendant and pretend to say hello, or at least say hello to the person. And so you'll walk down, you'll turn around, and then you'll walk back between the two tables that are set up the width of the aisle. Okay, so that's the physical part. That's it. Next is the face-to-face. So like I said, these could be in different order, but these are the different aspects. So the last aspect is the face-to-face. For the most part, it will be you and a people department person, so a recruiter, and a flight attendant that's on special assignment working as a recruiter. So it's the three of y'all. Two are interviewing you. Most of the time, the person from the people department, the human resources person, is asking all of the questions, most of the questions, and really conducting the interview. And the flight attendant is there, and she contributes a bit, and she is definitely paying attention, but a lot of it is led by your recruiter. And the questions are pretty standard to what you may have encountered other places or what you'll see on Glassdoor. They're going to ask you about your previous experience. They're going to want to know why you left a job or didn't leave a job. They're going to want to know how you had fun at this job. They're going to want to know, tell me about a time you gave great customer service. Again, they're going to want to know why you like Southwest. What it is that drew you to Southwest. So very kind of standard questions. They're going to ask you some situational questions about being on the plane. For example, what would you do if there was a nursing mother who's nursing a baby and she orders a Bloody Mary? How would you handle that? You would serve it to her, by the way. What would you do if this or that or the other? On the plane, pretty standard though. That's the face-to-face. At the end of the face-to-face, you will leave. No one I've heard of in the last couple years has received an offer at the face-to-face. That's not something that is standard. I haven't heard of it happening. You will get an email within about a week that says yes or no. Congratulations or not congratulations. Well, it doesn't actually say not congratulations because that would be kind of mean. It says thank you. We're moving forward with other candidates or something like that. Is the physical section have a seatbelt check? No. Not that I know of. You know what? That's a good question. I don't believe so. Maybe. Have you heard that they do? They maybe do. I don't think so. Like I said, I'm not like in the recruiting department. So if they do have you sit in the jump seat, they may, some airlines do. That's a good question. We can maybe try to find that information out. I heard some airlines test you like that. So if they do, and you're right, some airlines do test you like that for size. If they do, then you would just have to buckle in. And more than likely, when people have done it, they sit in the seat. The recruiter will go ahead and do it for you once so you can watch. And the flight attendant harnesses, I have been in them. They are a 4-point harness. So it has the one that goes over your shoulders and then buckles at your waist all into one thing. Is the jump seat belt adjustable? Yes. They're all very adjustable. They either have tabs that pull up here or else they're on like a regular seat belt that would go in and out from the middle though. And like I said, I fit in the jump seat 6 months pregnant and I'm not a little girl. So kind of watching the person do it if they do. That's a good question because now I'm like, maybe they do because I know they do the window and I know they do the walk. Maybe they do the seatbelt too because some airlines do. That's a good question. Yes, they're all adjustable. All right. Oh, we're running out of time. Okay. If you have to hop up, you will still get, hop up. If you have to hop off because it's getting late or whatever, and I'm kind of out of time, but I'm not done teaching. You will get the recording of this. And so you could skip to the end and listen to the rest when you get the recording on Monday. I apologize, but I'm going to keep going so that we can all, so I understand though if you need to leave. I'm going to keep recording and you'll get the recording. So that's the face-to-face. Now let's talk about training. Southwest training is notorious for being one of the most difficult. I have friends and clients who have gone through other trainings and then gone through Southwest training, which I, of course, have not because I'm not a Southwest employee, training, and it is difficult. I've gotten more crying calls from clients at Southwest training than any other training, meaning, please, can you just talk to me for a minute? I need you to give me a pep talk. That kind of like crying call. All those people who have called me have been successful. Okay, so it's not impossible to do. But that being said, one of the first, I'm telling you this because you may hear it, and I don't want anyone to be scared. I'm being honest about what my experience has been. But they graduate, hundreds of people a year. 2,000 this year, they're going to graduate from training. So people will graduate. Christina says it's a face-to-face the whole day. Pretty much all those aspects take up most of the day, 6 hours or so. Is 18 a good aim for the plus size range? Southwest uniforms, flight attendant uniform goes up to size 18. So you cannot wear a size larger because they don't have a uniform for you. So that is the maximum, okay, as far as sizing goes. I think that's what you were asking. So that would be the max. So if you're kind of on the edge, you're going to want to come farther in from the edge. Okay. And I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a little girl either. And I got hired by PSA wearing a size 14 suit. So it's not a size thing as much as it's you have to fit thing. Okay, good. Cool. Thank you. Good. So training. I think that's all the questions. Training. One of the things that is the first challenge for training is they're going to send you a packet and ask you to memorize the announcements. Now, their thought behind this is, I mean, who's heard a Southwest flight attendant say the announcements right? Nobody. They all sing and rap and dance, and they're all silly. But what they do is, if they can make sure that you know it by memorizing it, then that gives you the room to play with it and still cover the things that are required. So that's their thought process behind it. So they're going to ask you to memorize the announcements before you get to training, and you're tested on them kind of right away. Not like as soon as you walk in the door, but it's like the first day or two. And so that, especially if you haven't memorized things in a long time, because you've been out of school or whatever, it can be a little bit tough. That's the first thing. The next thing is just the actual aspect of training. You're learning a ton of stuff, like a semester's worth of college material in 3.5 weeks. There's a ton of information. There's service flow guidelines. There are actual emergency equipment, day-to-day duties, emergency procedures when you crash on the land, when you ditch in the water, if the plane's on fire. There's just so many different things that you're memorizing. How do you fight a fire? You've got to remember the steps. You've got to memorize them. You can't be looking in your manual if the plane's on fire. So there's a lot of aspects to it, and you're learning it very quickly. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that to prepare you. And I want to talk about the fact that there are basically 4 different types of learners. Okay, so I'm not sure how they do ditching. They learn ditching, but they're newly overwater qualified, so I'm not sure. In fact, they're just trying now to get their ETOPS, which is ditching. If you don't know, it means you crashed in the water. You don't land in the water, you crash in the water. Have you all seen that movie? I think that's what they say in like Fool's Gold or something. But anyways, okay. So ditching day at airlines that do fly over water, sometimes you'll get in a pool. Like at Continental, we had to jump in the pool, open the life raft, and board the raft. Southwest is working on getting their ETOPS, which is like their overwater qualification, so that they can start flying to Hawaii. So I don't know if they've added a full ditching program into their training, to answer your question. There are 4 types of learners. You don't have to memorize all the airport codes, but they test you on airport codes. She's asking, do you have to memorize all the airport codes? You do have to memorize them all, but they will send you the ones you have to memorize, and you will be tested on them. So that's a great thing, though, because it's standard. You can start learning that today. The announcements, we don't know those, but CD codes we know, because they're standard. So there's 4 types of learners: visual, auditory, reading and writing, and oh my gosh, I should have read this word, kinesthetic. So basically what that means, so if you show them something, I think it's going to freeze for a second. They can learn it best. Some people can learn from hearing. So if you tell them something, so if they're teaching it and you're hearing it, then it sticks in your brain. Some people more from reading and writing, interacting with the text. That's what really helps them learn, helps it stick. And then the 4th one is kinesthetic, and that's tactile. So like feeling something. The great news is the airlines, Southwest, the airlines do a really good job of covering all 4 of these types of styles when they are giving you training. So they do not teach, they don't just stand up there and talk about it. You get to see it happen, you get to hear it, they will teach it, read and write it, you'll have to read it, you'll have homework to write to help it stick in there, and then there's even, you get to touch and feel. You get to go to the airplane in the hangar, you get to turn on the lights, you get to turn on you get to open the bathroom, you get to look under the seat cushion, you get to do it, you get to touch it. So you get to do it all. And it's sort of similar to, like right now, if I asked you if I showed you a picture of the airplane and I said, and then I took it away and I was like, where was the light switch? You may not know, you may not remember. But if I asked you, where's the light switch in your house? You maybe would be like, I've never really thought about it, but it's right next to the door. You would just know because you've touched it. And so that's one of the great things about getting to go on the airplane. They're going to ask you on the test, where's the light switch? And since you've turned it on and off, you're going to remember. Okay, so I do have the question on your homework is, I believe I am a blank learner, because if you know your learning style, then it can help you to practice that way and help you to remember things better and to learn things better. Couple different ways to learn, some training, some tips for learning basically. You're going to want to use varied study materials. So that means you're going to want a variety of study materials. So you're going to want note cards, you're going to want to use highlighters, you're going to want to write things down on paper, you're going to want to read things like in your manual. So you want a couple different ways to learn. You want a couple different ways to learn the same information. You can draw a picture of the airplane outline and label it that way, and use different things, and they will give you some tools to do that. But make sure you take with you notebook, highlighters, pens, and index cards to make flashcards with you to training, because you'll learn, of course you're going to put your city codes on them, but all sorts of other things are going to go on those note cards, and those are the best way to just get that rote learning in. Another way is reading, saying, and writing. When you have to memorize these announcements, I'm going to go ahead and give you some tips for memorizing the announcements. So I went to a private Christian school, and I had to memorize Bible verses for Bible class every week. So I do have a good bit of experience trying to memorize large pieces of text weekly. So some of the things that we would do, that we were taught to do, is, of course, repetition is a big deal, but you want to repeat it a couple different ways. So writing it, because when you're writing it, you're seeing it, you're feeling it, and then you're also reading it. So you're kind of covering 3 different aspects. So you want to be writing. So if you just write them out a couple times when you're really sitting down to study, that is going to help you to remember it. And then in your day-to-day life, because we're not in high school anymore. We can't sit there and do homework for 3 hours every evening. We have lives and kids and families and jobs and other school and things like that. So another thing that you're going to want to do is read, say, and write, is you're going to want to say it. Because we all have these amazing smartphones that I didn't have in high school, one of the first things you're going to want to do is record yourself reading the announcement on your phone in the voice recorder, so that whether you're in the car or you're at the house folding laundry or you're sitting down to study, you can play what you have recorded yourself reading, and it's like learning a song. How do we learn songs on the radio? We hear them over and over again, and you just start to pick up on the words. And it's the same thing. So the more you're hearing yourself, you can even put it on like a loop and sleep. Go to sleep listening to it. And then you're still hearing it. Is that crazy? Your brain is that smart. So listening to it over and over again and trying to say it with yourself, like when you're driving and you've got it on and you're like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Southwest Airlines flight 933. Today's flight, as a reminder, there is no smoking, blah, 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 blah. So that you're saying it with it, and it will start to kind of kick in. When it's time to test yourself, when you think you've got it, recording yourself again, don't delete that recording, is another great way to test yourself, because you can record it without looking and then go back and listen to it, and then as you're looking at the text, and you can see what you've skipped, because it's hard to remember, like, oh, did I remember to skip that? So that's one way to test yourself. Okay. Focus on time management. So while you're in training, time management. Some people, I have two pieces of advice for this. If you're a party animal, you need to study. That's some advice for myself. If you get wound up and stress yourself out and freak yourself out and just your brain shuts down because you're a big ball of nerves, then your time management may be a little bit more party animal. So what I'm saying is, if you are the kind of person who stresses yourself out, you may need to use your time management. That for you may be, I'm going to take a walk every afternoon. I'm going to go and have dinner for 30 minutes without my book every evening and enjoy my food. So that may be your aspect of time management, giving yourself some margin and giving your brain some relief. Like I said, I'm the party animal. So mine is, I'm going to study every day for 1 hour by myself without having a party. So because I'm the opposite, I'm not as good at, self-discipline. So I would have to be careful on the other side of it. I can't go to everybody's room and hang out with them all afternoon. I need to do my homework. So however you are, and both can be detrimental, too much or too little. Make sure you're managing your time. Be well prepared and take notes. If you're asked to read a section of your manual the night before, read the section of your manual. Take notes. Everything they say and that they teach you will probably be in your manual. So they're not saying anything like new and brilliant. It's right there in your manual, but in your flight attendant manual. But writing it down again is going to help reinforce it. So I really encourage you to take notes during class, even though you're not recording the notes so that you can review them, because you can find the information in your manual. But writing them down is important. Talked about why earlier. Connect with others. There will be times when it is very, very important, even if you normally study on your own, for you to be participating in group study events. Evacuations is one of them. When you're learning your commands and you're practicing evacuating, which is a physical thing that you're doing, it really does help to have other people around to help watch you, make sure you're doing everything right and that you're not missing anything. Okay? Connect with others. Again, not in a party animal way, me. And then the third is mnemonic devices. So your airline will give you some of these, but I find them super helpful to help. That means that basically you find a trick that helps you remember something. So like earlier when I said Orlando, MCO, Mickey Company, some people will say Mickey Country, that's their mnemonic device. But MCO sounds nothing like Orlando, but when you do, oh, Mickey Country, oh, MCO. So that would be a mnemonic device. Sometimes when you're doing fight a fire, you can do, I'm trying to remember what they were for PSA. It was something like captains only drink milk on overnights or something like that. It was like call the captain, I don't even remember what they were, but it's kind of like how when you learn the colors of the rainbow and it's Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, that's a mnemonic device. Okay. So some of these will be given to you by your airline. Some of these you're just going to have to kind of figure out on your own, but they're super helpful if you remember to use them. Okay. Good. All right. So that is the end of what I have to talk about tonight. So we did go over a little bit. I hope those training tips were helpful. because I know that, the interview is a big thing, a big hurdle that we've got to get over, but then we got to get through training too. So hopefully this training has taken you from beginning to end, from the history to graduation, from training with Southwest. Now, are there announcements anywhere now? I would not trust any announcements that I found now, because they are tweaked and updated based on new FAA regulations, airplane size, branding, all the time. So if you went to Quizlet or something, you probably could find them, but I would not trust that they were accurate. And so I would be nervous to start memorizing something that may or may not be right, because unmemorizing is harder than memorizing the first time. Sorry, excuse me. That piece of ice like jumped in my mouth, and that wasn't very ladylike. So I'm curious to know what resonated the most with you as far as the Southwest culture. So I think that it would be good for you to sort of think about it and maybe type it up and send it to me if you want to. It's sort of like homework, but I didn't say we're going to have homework, so I don't want to make anyone do anything. But I would love to hear what you thought this, living the Southwest way and working the Southwest way, how that resonated with you personally, because that's going to be one of the main things you're going to want to communicate in your phone, in your face-to-face interview. Why are you such a good match for them? Why is your heart the same as their heart? Without a heart, it's just a machine. That's what they say about their airplanes, because they all have that heart on them. So I'm going to hang out for just one more minute or two to see if anyone else has questions. I'm really stoked that Northwest is comparable to the big ones. I love that they're so caring about their employees. Yes, Christina, they are not a mainline. They are a low-cost carrier. They are from Texas. They sing and dance and rap, but they take care of you like nothing else. They were the first ones, the first airline to do that $1,000 employee bonus. And I hope this isn't too much information. I was in the bathtub and my husband knocks on the door. He's like, I need to tell you something. And I was like, what? And he's holding his phone. He's like, Southwest is giving every employee a $1,000 bonus. And just that morning, we had kind of talked about how we pay our water bill every 6 months, and we got in the bill, and it's right after Christmas, and it's due in January, and we were kind of like, we're going to make it work, and we were both almost in tears because it was like the perfect timing for us to get a bonus from the company. And so Southwest was the first one to do that bonus, and then American and some of the other airlines kind of followed after it. But the profit sharing is huge. Last year they had extra profit, if that's even a thing. So everyone got their standard profit sharing, which for rampers goes in their 401k. Like, we don't get it in a check, or he doesn't get it in a check. It goes into his 401k. But they had extra profit sharing. So they gave him, I keep saying us because we're married, but they paid Jason an extra profit sharing, everyone, an extra profit sharing that did come in a check, that didn't go in the 401k. So I don't know how you have extra profit, but they had extra profit. So they gave you extra profit sharing. So they really, 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 really take care of their employees. And it's not all about money, but they are one who is very generous with their money towards employees. They really, really take care of employees and make you feel valued. And the cohorts, the teamwork spirit is very evident as well, even between work groups, which is really cool. Okay, thank you. You're welcome, Tracy. Thank you. You're welcome, Monica. It's been fantastic. Oh, feel more prepared. Good, good. Well, I'm excited. Like I said, Southwest is a special place in my heart because that's how we, feed our family right now. And I get to fly on them a lot. We didn't really talk about it. I'll go ahead and say it really quick. Yes, you fly for free on Southwest because that's pretty normal. We fly for free. So you fly for free, your spouse or, domestic partner, your person, whoever your person is, flies for free. Your children fly for free until they're 25. Your parents fly for free on Southwest. So there's 5 of us in my family. We fly for free. You also, as the employee, have what's called an open cabin agreement, and you will fly free on a lot of different carriers. For your family members, you'll be able to buy what's called a Z fare, which is it's zonal fare, and it's a discounted fare. So like for me and Jason to fly on Delta, he's not a flight attendant, so he doesn't get to fly free on Delta. He has to buy Z fare too. Like we just looked for us to fly to New York just to fly up there. It's about $100. So 2 tickets from Charleston to LaGuardia would be, it's a standby ticket, but would be about $100. So, you know, buying those tickets would have cost $375 or so. Good. All right. Thanks for the great class. We got this now. Prepared for Monday. Yep. Monday and beyond. Because hopefully, you know, they do interview in order of application. So don't let that freak you out so that you make a mistake. But, you know, go ahead and get it done on the 5th so that they'll call you soon. They're still calling people from August 2016 are still getting their phone call interview now. So it's a long time. Good. All right, guys. Well, we're over time, so I'm going to hop off. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. I appreciate you hanging out a little bit. Thanks for the great class. Okay, good. Do they make appointments for the phone? Yes, they will make an appointment with the phone interview. It's odd, but they usually call you to set up the phone interview. You'll get an email that says we're going to be calling you to set up your phone interview, and sometimes there's usually a little more paperwork to do, a couple more questions. Are you still interested? Like, you know, things like that. And then they will call you to set up your phone interview and then call you at your scheduled time. So yeah, good. All right. Any other questions? Y'all know where to find me on Facebook. And I appreciate every one of you for taking the time, almost 2 hours of your Thursday night, to learn about an airline, prepare yourself, make yourself better, increase your odds, and just to sort of, you know, invest in yourself and invest in your dream. I'm super proud of that. I honor that. I think that there's never, that's never a negative. That's always going to have a positive result. So keep dreaming, keep going for it. Can't wait to see what happens. Can't wait to see where you end up. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you later.